Okay, perfect. Hi, Joben. Hi, Ismail. Thank you for joining. So we'll still wait some minutes so everyone can join.
Hi, Usama. Hi, Joben.
Hello.
Hi, Ismail. Sorry. Perfect. It's 6 p.m. So let's start, guys. Thank you, everyone, for joining the event. I will be your host today, and I'm joined with data experts, Joben from Google and Ismail. And today we will try to walk you through this new category of CDPs, Composable Customer Data Platform, and hopefully we'll give you insightful information about how to build one and how to leverage your cloud data platform, especially your Google Cloud platform, to build a composable CDP. So I'll start to present the speakers. So myself, I'm Osama. I'm the founder and CEO of Dynmo, a company built several years ago to help many companies, especially D2C companies, build data capabilities on the cloud, on their data infrastructure. And I'm joined with Ismail and Joben, and we'll leave them the mic to present themselves.
Yes. Hi, everybody. So I'm Ismail Gulani, the co-founder and CTO of Modeo, a data engineering consulting company based in Paris. So basically, we are a team of 20 data experts on what we build for companies to build the data platforms, learning from various industries. Yeah. Jobin, you can.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, based off of wherever you are. I'm Joben George. I'm a technical partnership and strategy lead for data analytics here at Google Cloud. I work with partners like Dynmo and Modeo and build joint solutions to help our customers like yourself. Excited to be here. Looking forward to talking to you about composable CDP on BigQuery.
Perfect. Thank you both. And thank you everyone for joining the event. And don't hesitate to ask any question. We see your question and we'll take the time to answer them. So before starting, we will go with a quick intro to speak about this category, this customer data platform. And hopefully we give you insightful information. So to start, why do we talk today about CDPs? So the thing is around improving customer experience. Historically, customers communicated with companies through one channel. It was like the store to buy products. And with the internet era, the digital era, there was an explosion of customer touchpoints. So customers communicate with enterprises. They leave up to 12 points of contact before making a transaction. They speak to the company through different tools, and they leave much data points that describes their customer journey. And from the other hand, those same customers are using services like YouTube from Google, like Netflix, and they're getting used to a lot of personalization in terms of experience. And they're acquiring the same level of personalization from companies like traditional retailers, etc. And the problem is that to get to this level of personalization, you need a lot of data ops. You need a lot of data segmentations. You need to be able to access a customer 360 that contains all the information about the customer interactions. And historically, companies has dealt with this with a lot of data ops, so asking data engineers, data analysts to build a lot of segments and then export them to different tools, which takes a massive amount of time and massive resources, which makes it like really suitable only for big companies. And now to solve this problem, there is like first generation of platforms that we call CDP that came with the promise of bridging this gap between business users and the customer data. So the main idea is like to bring all those data touch points, bring them together, stitch them together, and give an interface, a no-code interface for business users, mainly marketing teams, sales teams, and customer support teams, an interface so they can access this data, build customer audiences, and then share this unified data with all the platforms where they communicate with their customers to ensure consistency and the fact of having the same information across all the tools that they use to speak to their customers. So if you have, let's say, this VIP segment of your customers, you are sure you have this information up to date in your customer engagement platform, in your customer support tool, and also on digital platforms, so you can ensure this consistency in terms of way of talking to your customers. So now this is like the concept of CDP. So now let's see what is a composable CDP. So the composable CDPs is a relatively nascent category in the CDP, and the main idea of a composable CDP is to say there are a lot of enterprises that invested in customer data warehouses like Google BigQuery or any other data warehouses like Snowflake or Databricks. But let's say Google BigQuery, since we have Joben in the panel. And so the concept of traditional CDPs that centralize the data in their backend is a little bit challenging, because if you have already like centralized everything in a Google BigQuery and you're seeing a lot of data and you're able to segment and show this data on a dashboard, why do you need like to duplicate this data and put it in another platform? So the idea came from this the growth of adoption of those platforms. And there is this new category that connects natively to Google BigQuery and other cloud data warehouses without duplicating the data and giving all the features that you would expect from a CDP. And here we talk about the ability to segment the data about customers and then sync this data with different platforms. The advantage of this composable CDP obviously is the zero copy architecture. So we don't copy data. It always lives in the company's infrastructure, so they need only to build this universal data infrastructure within their IT, governed with their IT or data teams, and then it's exposed with data products that will connect natively to this data infrastructure. So you avoid IT overlap, functionality overlap, and you have also a flexible architecture, so you can take only the features that you miss, give the growth teams rapidly an interface so they can consume this data. And now we'll leave this is like the main intro, and now we'll give Ismail the lead to explain to you how to lay the foundations for a composable CDP. Obviously, the first part is to be able to build this data warehouse, and I think Ismail and Modi, you helped a lot of companies build this, so hopefully we explain how to do it. It's up to you, Ismail.
Thank you, Usama. And as Usama stated, building a composable CDP, you need to have a foundation, and this foundation is a data platform. And so data platform is a kind of like the company infrastructure designed to efficiently collect data from various data sources, whether it be batches, streaming data coming from various data sources like social media or marketing data, to collect it, store it in some cloud data warehouse like BigQuery, for example, and then process it based on some maybe company business rules or KPIs. Once all the data is gathered and processed, it's then delivered to some business analytics tools, for example, or maybe some machine learning operations, or maybe embedded into some data products. So this is like the very important to understand that once you have this data platform foundation, it enables the companies to be ready for new use cases, or even adopt new technologies like the CDP, composable CDP, for example. So why is it so important for a company to have a data platform? Because nowadays, with the rise of cloud data warehouses, or maybe cloud computing is cheap. Storing data is also cheap. So you will benefit from you will benefit of the cost optimizations. So this is the first thing. Another thing is to be ready for any innovations like AI or other innovation. And once you have this foundation, you will be able to be ready for innovations, unlock new business insights, and also improve some operational efficiency by automating some current business tasks, for example. And and I think to understand the data platforms, you need to understand the building blocks. And in like current data platforms, you have many important building blocks. Firstly, when you have some project, you need to identify the data sources, whether it's internal or external. Once you have it, you need to try to use a data ingestion tool. It can be open source tools like Airbyte, or maybe PubSub if you want to ingest streaming data in a GCP, for example. Once you have ingested your data, you need to store it somewhere. And this can be done by using cloud data warehouse like BigQuery, for example. And when your data is stored, you are now ready to transform it with tools like DBT or Python or maybe SQL. And once you have all this, maybe you need to maybe schedule data fetching every day. So you need to orchestrate all this data transformation, data fetching operations to be then ready to serve your data to some external tools, maybe some external users. It can be machine learning, can be BI tools, or even some tools like Dynamo, for example, to serve another tools like CRMs and everything. And it's really important also to mention that those building blocks need a foundation, a data governance foundation, because if you want good outputs, you need good data from input to output. So you need to have data quality embedded inside data governance on everything.
So just maybe like one comment, Ismail, on this one. So we see here like a change of paradigm. It's like historically, if we need like to power HubSpot or any other market tool that works with customer data, we needed like to get the data, like 100% of the data in their backend. And now what we see here is that we need to build one single infrastructure, model one time, and then orchestrate and put it only the relevant data within those tools. Am I correct on assuming this?
Yeah, that's the point actually.
Perfect. So now, like, can you tell us the key steps to be able to build it, because we see a lot of plugs and maybe it can make some people afraid. If you can walk us through this.
Yeah, sure. Actually, every data project starts by a business needs. So maybe someone on your team asks you to do some task. Maybe you want to segment some categories of the customers. So it's very important to define with your team the business needs of the objectives of what you want to do. Once you've defined everything, you can now maybe if your team has some engineers, you can maybe start to select the right tools, the right infrastructure, maybe the right cloud. It can be Google Cloud, for example, or the tools for ingest, the tool to store everything. And you also have to keep in mind that whatever you're building as a data platform needs to be ready to scale. So if you want tomorrow to ingest not only one or two sources, but maybe 10 data sources and various types of data sources, you need to build your data system to scale. And another step is also to build your data platform to produce quality data. So you need to have data governance in mind too. And once you have done all this exercise, you are now ready to go to production by automating all the process from fetching to delivering data using some orchestration tool like Airflow, the workflow, for example. So this is very important.
Yeah, just one question about this those key steps, Ismail. I know like the one question for someone who haven't implemented this before would be, is it like 1 year project? Is it like 2 years project? I know it depends on the company size, the company existing investment, but just trying like to see if I want to like make a POC of a data platform on Google BigQuery, and I'm like a retailer having everything. Only with e-commerce companies, how much time does it take like to have a proof of concept as a data platform?
Yeah, actually at Modeo we started to develop like a framework to rapidly be able to deliver data platforms, especially in Google Cloud, for example. So I think a POC, if it's like well described and well designed, can take maybe 1 month or even less.
Okay.
It can be even less if everything is very clear. We know all the tool, all the business use cases. You can like very rapidly like set up a data platform.
That's cool. That's cool, and I think that's like one of the main changes, because obviously, if we talk about CDPs, everyone have in mind when we have made interviews before building the companies. When you talk about CDPs, especially for mid-market companies, they are basically afraid. The word CDP implies complexity of implementation, and we'll go through a process of 1 year of integrating all the data, fitting in a fixed schema. And I think like with this approach, the thing is like it's super flexible. What you're saying is define one objective, build this data, bring it to Google BigQuery, and then use this data to have the first use case, and then iterate, get new data. So it's flexible and scalable to meet future business requirements.
Yeah, actually, when you're building a data platform, like the like time-consuming parts are mostly the engineering parts. So what we've been able to do is to like make this part very easy. So now we'll be more focused on gathering data about business objectives, and then all the CI/CD, all the tools around the data platform. Now it's a kind of framework, and it's for Modeo. We have tools to accelerate this step.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And I think we can see now we move with Joban to see like sorry, there's like another slide. Sorry.
As we're talking about using like cloud data warehouse, something like we at Modeo, when we were working with various clients, whether startups, big clients, everything, on this data platform architecture is designed, for example, to be cost efficient, and also very simple to implement. So you can have many different kind of data sources. It can be SQL, it can be CRMs, Google Sheet, everything. And by using some Google Cloud tools on serverless tools, especially like BigQuery, Google Cloud Run or Google Workflow, we've been able to implement like what we call a cost-efficient data infrastructure in GCP. So this kind of example of data platform can be like implement for any customer like in less than a month. Like today, the most effort will be in gathering business data from the company.
Perfect.
And we talk a lot about like delivering data to be consumed by other tools like Dynamo or maybe some BI tools. So it's really important to spend a little bit time on the data modeling part, because once you model your data, this will be the baseline to do every data task. It can be serving some marketing tools for Dynamo. It can be doing some dashboards. So data modeling can be like separated in four steps. You have the staging area where you are all the data, like the raw data, and then you can go now to the what we call the raw area. So in this stage, data will be deduplicated, denormalized, etc. And then you have the core layer where data is you have historization, version, etc. And then in the data mart place, you will store data maybe by subject area. Maybe you have finance team, you have marketing team. So in this place, you can store your data in by subject, for example. And maybe in your company, you don't want maybe every tools to access every kind of data. So what we call the presentation layer, maybe you will like build a kind of view for Dynamo, for example, like only Dynamo can see only those tables.
Yeah.
And this is why this part is very important. How you model your data will define how your data will be used and the quality of the outputs.
From the farm to your plate,
Yeah.
different spaces, like all the value chain that we see here. And yeah, this is a cool approach. I think when you're speaking about the presentation layer, it's basically like a data mesh approach with saying, okay, so for this application, you need only this kind of data for this other application. And so you can separate the and govern or who can access to any kind of data. This is like, am I understanding this correct, Ismail?
Yeah, this is correct. Actually, you can apply some custom rules, some data anonymization in this layer. You are just presenting what you want to give to another tools, for example.
Yeah, so specific to the users, the final user that is intended. So you can have, for example, first-party data, clear emails stored in the core data or the data mart layer, and now you want to communicate this data to external platforms like Facebook, Google, for example. And for that, you need to hash. You can hash it like in the presentation layer without having to do it on all the other layers. If I understand correctly.
That's the point.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ismail, for this presentation and walking us through the process of building this data foundation. I think it's now cool to have Joban speak about, we saw a lot of tools. I know you can just ask yourself, like, do I need like to have all those tools and have a lot of licenses, etc.? But I think with Google Cloud Platform, there's a lot of tools on the platforms like Dynamo and on the marketplace that you can leverage to build such a composable CDP. So Joban would be happy to hear your thoughts. Sorry, there were Ismail. The second time I forget that you have like one last slide. So
this was just a presentation of one of our customers who is working in the media industry.
Okay.
And so yeah, this was a setup of data platforms to serve marketing use cases. And so we started by defining the situation, like the business needs with the company. We set up all the environments, and we are the goals. And what we were trying to do is to build a scalable platform to serve current use cases and also future use cases. So we have this in mind, and all this were done and deployed in with Google Kubernetes.
Yeah, perfect. So now it's for you, Joban. It's officially for you. You have waited 2 times to get the mic. So
sure.
Yeah,
no worries.
Thank you so much. Like here, especially in France, we know like Google BigQuery is one of the main data warehouses that are used for many use cases, and we love the flexibility. We love also like there is no barrier in terms of investment, and you can have like some credits to try to do it. But it would be awesome to see how would your customers, the customer of GCP, can build this composable CDP around Google BigQuery.
Sure. Thank you, Soma, and thank you, Ismail, for the great intro and overview of composable CDP and its importance. Before I dive deep into Google's approach to CDP, I just wanted to give you a primer by adding on to what Ismail and Osama discussed from a 10,000 feet bird view, right? The promise of modern data platform for this generation is undeniable. Organizational leaders understand that there is tremendous potential in harnessing the power of data, machine learning, AI, to create a compelling customer experience at the end of the day. It is, however, a significant amount of difficulty in getting to that place to be that customer-centric company. In fact, a study Gartner found, did like a few, months ago, showed that only 20% of that analytic insights actually delivered business outcome. But out of that, maybe only 10% of those companies actually achieved any financial benefit. There are many reasons to it. First, the amount of the data volume a particular company needs to analyze, that is going to be very tricky, like, because it's not like gigabytes of data anymore for any company of any size. Next, not just the volume of the data, the customer data would come in different shapes, different platforms, different formats. And how are we going to deal with all of this? We are just getting into the weeds of all these, like, nitty-gritties. Why, from an ingestion standpoint, how complicated it is when you're analyzing it, how complicated it is, and then pushing it into the fine-grained data results, which Ismail talked about. The third is there is no single way of working with all the data. How are we going to deal with all of this? We are just into the weeds of all these, like, nitty-gritties. All right, I thought it was an echo, but like.
Okay,
there's
perfect.
no single way of working with the data. Companies need to leverage traditional SQL-based tools, maybe APIs, maybe Python, AI, machine learning. You have to deal with all of this when it comes to your data. This is exactly where BigQuery can help customers. And Google BigQuery is Google Cloud's highly scalable enterprise-grade data warehouse solution, fully managed, serverless, and offers real-time insights from streaming data, built-in machine learning, built-in AI capabilities, with security features as well, because it's designed to make the data analysts and data scientists more productive, and as well as make their life easier. So some of you can move to the next slide. Yeah, so like I said, it is completely serverless, provide you even capabilities to get real-time insights from streaming data, built-in ML, AI capabilities, high-speed in-memory BI engine for faster reporting. Next, let us take a look at the architecture of BigQuery really quickly. What you're looking at is the comprehensive overview. It is fully managed and serverless, and then of course there are like peripherals, partner ecosystems, including Dynamo, which thrives around it. But let's take a look at the core components. Storage and compute are decoupled and can scale independently, which is like not this, typical scenario you would see out there. This offers immense flexibility and cost control for your business, irrespective of your size. If you're an enterprise, if you're a greenfield or like startup customer, it just gives you that flexibility. It is very different than the traditional node-based cloud data warehousing solution, in the cloud or in on-premises you might have seen. This approach allows customers to have capabilities to look at the data with SQL, machine learning APIs, AI capabilities, without worrying about database operations or system engineering of like, I have to hire like 10 different, individuals to run the data warehousing service for me in terms of administration. Under the hood, BigQuery employs a vast set of multi-tenant services. Storage is Colossus, Google's global storage system that backs up Google Drive, Maps, popular Google services, etc. Compute is Dremel, large multi-tenant cluster that execute SQL queries. The compute and storage are talking to each other through a petabyte network called Jupyter, and then all of this is orchestrated using Borg, which is Google's precursor to Kubernetes. You can use APIs, libraries, JDBC, ODBC drivers, command line, even Google Web Console to interact with BigQuery and do analysis of your data. Now, let us look at,
maybe one question on this, because I remember, Jovan, like my first experience with BigQuery was at the time where I was at Ornicar, one of my first guests, where I built my first data stack. And I was like astonished to see the separation between the storage and the compute. And one of the questions I think people can ask is, how much data can I put in a Google BigQuery, and how much data can I query concurrently? For example, let's say I want to put all my data within Google BigQuery, so it can act at the universal data layer, and then I will plug Dynamo and tens of other applications internally to serve this data to final users. We can have pics of queries that concurrently go on to Google BigQuery. Just like wonder what amount of data, what use cases, like ultimate use cases that you have seen within your customers.
Sure. If you look at it, like a couple of years ago, we probably didn't had that many customers with the petabyte scale operations needed. Right now, we have hundreds of customers who have, a data warehouse is bigger than that. The advantage is that if you have petabyte storage sitting in your, BigQuery offered managed storage, you're only paying for the storage fees. There is no cluster fees or like compute fees associated with it. The moment you start issuing queries, the billing mechanism of how BigQuery works is that based on the amount of data you scan, right, you will be charged for that. And then, of course, like there are like different layers of, like subscription you can have within like the enterprise, enterprise version. But like if you are looking at probably the pay-as-you-go model, ideally there is no limit to how much data you can store. But of course, like, each and every customer would be limited to a quota to make sure they don't, because you set up an ingestion system and then you forgot about it. You don't want everything to be blocked. So we set quotas, and then of course you can work with the team to set it up, extend it. So
I fairly can say, so company like Walmart or Carrefour in France can use, and they use, I know like Carrefour, for example, in France, they
you can
are
find
big
the public
customers
case studies. Yeah, you can find the public case studies of,
yeah. Okay, cool. So I think it can fit any common company, and without any worries, like they can build their infrastructure on Google BigQuery without worrying about the scalability or the amount of data they can put it in. Okay, perfect.
All right. So CDP package, like Ismail and Sama mentioned, it is a persistent unified customer data store. Now, Google's approach is not providing you with an out-of-the-box solution, but giving you the option to, or building blocks for you to design the system you need with the help of our own services, as well as ISVs like Dinmo, and help you build that ecosystem you would need. To build a composable CDP on BigQuery, you need to leverage BigQuery's data storage and processing capabilities along with all these tools in the peripheral. Like for data ingestion, the bunch of tools which Ismail mentioned, identity resolution, then audience segmentation, data activation, essentially creating flexible platform for you to plug and play. Like, you can choose what poison you want to go with. Data preparation ingestion is like, the primary one, setting up the pipelines, data cleaning, standardization, customer identity resolution by implementing robust strategies using techniques like deterministic matching or probabilistic matching, fuzzy logic and things like that. And then utilize, utilizing all this, create the data model, profile table for customers, and then creating the data warehousing schema for you to consume this outside of it, and then organize all the logical tables and business depending upon the business needs, for which you can use Google BigQuery's AI/ML and built-in capabilities. Then comes the data activation. Data activation platforms specialized for that scenario, like Dinmo, integrates with BigQuery really well, and Google Cloud Ready BigQuery, which I work very closely with Dinmo recently, then do the audience segmentation as well as real-time synchronization depending upon from BigQuery where you should go, right? And then, building this composable solution architecture, depending upon your use cases, maybe API integration needs to be in place, maybe dealing with pushing the data into reports as well as into a target system where you can really activate on this, and then of course data quality, security, scalability, of course, like whether the platform is scalable or not, depending. The question Osama asked, how much data you design it for today's need, but like what happens after 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 5 years from now. And then that is going to be very critical. Like I know that Ismail's job is to make sure it plan for like at least 10 years while you are building all these blocks and implement one after the other. So what you're looking at right now is actually the comprehensive list of all these services, which you can choose from, either from Google services or from top-notch Google partners like Dinmo. If you look at the data sources, it's like variety of data. You could get all these customer data and profile them based off of it. Collecting the data, you have different mechanisms like ETL streaming data, BigQuery, data transfer service, batch data, direct import from Google Analytics or Firebase or like Google Ads data. Pipelining tools can help you with it. Depending upon your use case, you can choose that or use the native services, application integration from Apigee or Google. Then make sure once your data is ready, if you want to exchange it, Analytics Hub or data signals or like using a third party, AI/ML machine learning use cases, customer insights using Looker. It's not critical for you to have every piece of it, but depending upon your use case, pick and choose what exactly is going to be solving your use case, and that's where experts, like Ismail comes into the picture, picking and choosing the right tools and solution for you, including activation partners like Dinmo, where once you have the data, now what, right? Like you have to act on it. You have to make sure it reaches. I'm sure Osama will talk about more on that, but there is a lot more to talk about the CDP composable architecture on GCP, but in interest of time, I'll pass it back to Osama. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Joban. It's a good transition. So yeah, we learned now, like with Ismail and then with Joban, how to build this, lay those foundations for such applications. And I have been seeing this, like before building Dinmo in 2022, I have seen like a lot of companies adopting those cloud data warehouses because there's a lot of flexibility out there. They can start with the first use case, use the dashboard, etc. Now we have been seeing some gap between the data the companies that have succeeded to centralize within a Google BigQuery and the uses they make out of it. A lot of companies have been stuck into BI, so they make a lot of analysis, but they start like having those questions for the marketing team. Okay, I'm seeing this analysis, that we have, let's say, 10,000 inactive customers. Can I have like this segment on my CRM at regular basis? And you understand like that is not possible, and people will come and extract those data on dashboards and then upload it manually. And I saw like this gap between the usage of marketing teams and the data that is stored within Google BigQuery, but still inaccessible for most marketers. And that time we saw like an opportunity to build a bridge between this data, this massive data that's coming within Google BigQuery, and it's becoming more audited with data teams, with all the tools that will ensure it is in a good shape. And we created Dinmo, starting with the mission in mind, is liberate the full potential of customer data. If it's easy to collect now the data, put it in a good shape, govern it. So let's build like the perfect tool to extract the maximum of value out of it and enable any D2C company to personalize all their communication with their customers by giving them everything they need to leverage this data. And if you look at the platform, we have 4 main components. The first one is the Customer 360 view, which is, as Ismail said, companies will expose data to Dinmo. We need to give it with an intuitive interface to marketing teams so they can use it to build segment, to build audiences, to build scores without needing any SQL knowledge or coding, etc. So this is like the first part, exposing the data so people can explore it, see what they can do with it. And then we enrich this data with AI prediction. For example, if you're a retailer, you would obviously want to know who are the customers that are at risk of churn, who are the customers that can be my best customers in the future. So unlock those insights that are hidden within this large amount of data that lives in your Google BigQuery is something that we bring on the shelf. So we have some pre-built model that trains on your own data and gives you back this data within your Google BigQuery. And then the 2 main features that business teams will use is the ability to act on this enriched data, build customer segments, and then with 1 click, share them with all the tools that they use without having to develop any customer pipeline. So as you see, we have this native integration with BigQuery and other cloud data warehouses. We don't store any data at rest, so we virtually get the data when we need to compute some audiences or share them with any other platform. And all the time we will get the data back to the data warehouse so we can keep this clean governance and this data within companies' infrastructure. And as Jobin said, we are Google BigQuery ready solution. We are on the marketplace, and we care a lot about the security of the data, and we have compliance with the GDPR. We have SOC 2 Type 2 also certified, and we work with large enterprises like Galeries Lafayette or Nexity or Interflora or Anchor Store that they leverage their Google BigQuery and Dynamo to power their marketing personalization. And we thought about like how to present Dynamo, and we decided to put it in 3 slides, the before and after. So before Dynamo, what we have been seeing is that marketing team that want to personalize their interactions with their customers. They need customer audiences all the time within their different tools. And the traditional way of doing this was logging some Jira tickets on the tech backlog, define the needs, etc. So you need like someone who will be the product manager for all those tickets, and then wait for the data team or the technical team to build those audiences. So another week, and then the third week, they will give you a CSV that you'll need to upload manually on different platforms. And sometimes like we don't think it's like the best way. We don't see the GIF here, but with Dynamo, it's basically something that you can build autonomously within seconds. You have access to 100% of this data. You can just with drag and drop, define the rules that defines the segments, and then in one click decide whether you want it in Google Ads or Facebook Ads or your Salesforce, etc. And the data will update each time it changes in the Google BigQuery. You build it once, you have it on all the platforms, and if you want to change the definition of any audience of any segment, you just change it on Dynamo and it will be replicated on all the other platforms. The second use case, sorry.
No, I just wanted to ask a question, like, what is the basic skills of the use of the Dynamo solution in the company? Should it be like a data analyst, or even the business person can use it?
We see 2 types of users. The main user is a marketing analyst. Is the one who will build use the CRM or use the Facebook or Google to build campaigns. So they have an interface that's similar to the interface that they use on the CRM or on those advertising platforms. So no basic understanding of how to build audience is sufficient. No need to have SQL knowledge or something like that. And sometimes you would need a data analyst to build some custom pipelines to send a score to some other platforms. But let's say like 95% of the time, it's the marketing team that will use autonomously the platform.
Nice.
Thanks, Ismail. The second use case is, the fact of building the audience is something, and then syncing this audience and putting it in the platform where you need it to build a campaign and personalize your communication with your customer is something else. Historically, to get the customer data within the platform, whether you do it with CSVs or SFTPs uploads or manual uploads, with something is really risky, time consuming, and especially you don't have any control or audit about the data that you're putting on those platforms. It's not a perfect way to do it. With platforms like Dynamo, the data will sync automatically to all those destinations. It's just a matter, we have built and we monitor all those platforms, and we deal with all the hassle around rate limiting, parallelizing all the pipelines, so we can be confident. You just focus on building the right audience, focus on your campaign, don't lose any time on the setup of how to get this data within the platform that you need. And the third use case, which is one of the latest that we have launched, is the ability to enrich the customer data that exists in Google BigQuery with machine learning and predictive analytics. Everyone is talking about AI. We love generative AI, but we think there's a lot of value also in predictive AI. So predicting your future customer behavior will give you a lot of power to personalize and anticipate churn, focus on your best customers, etc., and we'll bring it on the shelf. So you have like pre-built models that train on your data and give you all this information. And before Dynamo, what we have been seeing is this was like something very time consuming and needing a lot of resources. So because you need to hire a data scientist or an agency, build the model, train the model, decide on the model to take, and then get it to production. So it can take like months or sometimes even years. I have seen this in many companies, especially in enterprises. And with Dinmo, we are focused on specific use cases that, especially like on predicting lifetime value, churn, product recommendations, and we give them like to all of our customers, and they can train their models in a couple of hours. They have like their model trained, and then they can have the data with all the predictions about the future customer behavior that they can use directly within their CRM or their support tool without needing to implicate any engineering or development in the process. And just to give you an example of one of our case study, which is into Flora, they have invested heavily on building data capabilities on Google BigQuery, but they were in the process of building their Google BigQuery. So they didn't have like 100% of the customer journey, the full customer 360, but they had some urgent use cases, and just wanted to show like how you can build your composable CDP. It's not one shot and then you have like all the use cases. People think it's like you go from 0 to 1 directly. It's not a jump. It's like step by step. And we think like if you want to build a composable CDP, focus on the very obvious use cases of making data usable to business teams. Just expose the data. So if people don't have like the access to the product that the customers buy, give them this data and start with the very simple basic use cases by enriching the platform that you use to speak to your customers with the relevant data. And then you will move to orchestrating omni-channel journeys. Your customers can buy on store, they can come to and buy on your website, and then interact in different ways. So we need to orchestrate the way that they talk with them in terms of journeys, not like one message to one channel. And the last part, when you succeed to implement all those use cases, is improving existing processes. So if you see like that you have a process that is time consuming, you have some pipelines that we have a lot of engineers that do them, like with Dinmo we can avoid this by using Dinmo as like the orchestrator of your customer data, the only platform that will activate data to the different platforms that you use. If you have any question, you can reach out to me or to Vincent, the head of data of Interflow. We'll be together on Big Data and AI Paris next month. So we'll be happy to chat and explain how we succeeded to build this composable CDP step by step in 2024. Now we finished the event. I hope like you learned much, and hopefully we can answer any questions that you have. So feel free to ask your question to me or Joban or Ismail, and we still have 13 minutes, I think, and we can take any question.
Thank you, Osama.
Thank you both. Thank you, Joban. Thank you, Ismail.
Sure. Thank you.
Wait, do we see the questions?
While the other questions are coming in, maybe I can ask a simple question. Osama, at our side, we typically see something called reverse ETL, like moving data from data warehouses into applications.
Of course.
How often customers confuse that with activating on the customer data, or how do you see the overlap? Because it's a new emerging thing which I see like so many. Even BigQuery is embracing it. I don't know if you have seen the new announcement of
Of course. Yeah. I saw
So want to continuous queries, right? So if you can give a little bit insights while the questions are coming in, definitely that will help.
One of the most questions that people ask us from the data teams is like, okay, so are you reverse ETL? What is the difference between reverse ETL and data activation? So reverse ETL for us is a process. It's something like that enables companies the process of getting the data from the data warehouse, putting it into other applications. And for us, like it's a subset of data activations. For us, data activation is the extraction of value from a data that is at rest and putting it in motion. So let's say we have a backend engine, a reverse ETL backend engine, but we're not focusing on only integration. Integration comes with everything else. So we don't want to like people to see us as an only integration platform or reverse ETL. We want to use it as a process of getting the knowledge that we will extract out of the data within the white platform. So it's a part of the process. People can use us like a reverse ETL, but they will be underusing the platform because we have a lot of other features that
capability.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes sense. Thank you for that.
No problem. But obviously, when we started building the company, the first thing that we built is the reverse ETL, because we saw like the first pain point that you will have is that you miss data that you see on dashboards. This is like the basic use case we see all the time. People see data on Looker, but they don't have it in their CRM, and they were wondering, why do I see it on the dashboard and I don't have it within my Salesforce? And the idea is like the data warehouse is not connected to the platform, so the reverse ETL is obviously a very important part in this process in any CDP.
Makes sense. I used to do this like at least 6 years ago. That didn't have this custom activation or reverse ETL fancy name back then. But definitely that helps.
Yeah. I think.
Go
on, Ismail.
I think you mentioned actually globally the main things about the way of using CDPs, and I think if people in the audience or people want to get to know more about implementing CDPs, we have been building with Dinmo a guide on building a CDP and GCP. And so you will find in this guide some various questions. All the things we stated here will be also present in this and even further. So don't hesitate.
Yeah, and we have built everything, like we summarized everything around composable CDPs with Modio on a shared ebook that you can download on our websites to understand a bit more. And I think, Ismail, we will be also on the Big Data and AI Paris.
We've been
some weeks.
We'll be with Modio at the Big Data and AI Paris, and so we have some conferences with Usama and other companies about data platforms, CDPs, and everything. So don't hesitate.
Yeah. So to summarize, I think if you have like one of the questions, if we don't have any other questions, so just to wrap up this discussion, so we learned why CDPs are important, and with Ismail, we'll walk through these different steps to lay the data foundations for those composable CDPs for data activation. And with Jobin, we have seen the capabilities of Google BigQuery and all the ecosystem that exists in GCP and all the tools that you can use in the GCP ecosystem to build your composable CDPs, including Dinmo and many other tools that will ensure that you have like the white platform. And we finished with Dinmo explaining how to leverage this data once it's centralized within a platform like Google BigQuery. And hopefully this was helpful. So you have like you can replay the event, obviously it's on LinkedIn. If you want to have like the presentation, just reach out to us and we will definitely share it with you. If you have any question, who want to build a composable CDP, we are available with Ismail. You can reach out to us, to Ismail, to build this foundation, or to Dinmo if you have already a data warehouse, and we can schedule a no-charge workshop with you and help you build this composable CDP.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Jobin. Thank you, Ismail. Have a nice evening. Have a nice day, Jobin. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.